Hello everyone, this is William from the DLC Vlogs and I am back. Today it's going to be a little different. It won't be a vlog. It's going to be a tutorial on how to mix Canon and Sony footage. So first off, why would you be mixing Canon and Sony footage? Well, for one, not everyone can afford to upgrade all of their equipment from Canon to Sony. Or maybe you got freelance shooters. One guy's shooting on a 6D, the other guy is shooting on an A6500, and the other guy is shooting on an A7S. So, what is the secret picture profile that I use to mix Canon and Sony footage? Actually, it's very simple. You don't need to buy EOS HD to do this. You don't need to buy anything. You're just going to be using the picture profiles on your camera. This is closer to Canon neutral. For event videography work, I personally don't use log because I don't want it too flat. For event videography where for when timelines are really fast. Most of our event work are same-day edit videos. If not same-day edit videos, videos that need to be pushed out in a very fast time. Anyway, so this is the magic sauce. For Canon, I use neutral, 1 sharpness, -4 contrast, -4 saturation, and 0 color tone. And for Canon footage, do not use 720p 60 frames per second a lot. You'll really see the difference in the loss of resolution when it's put next to the Sony footage, which looks much more crisper. It has a better pixel readout and all of that. So as much as possible, stick to the 1080, 24, or 30. If you're one of those guys that use 30, well... For Sony, I use PP6, change the gamma to Cine 4, and change the color tone to cinema. And that's it. From testing all other picture profiles, this is the closest I can get Canon to Sony footage. For Sony footage, it can look a little bit less contrasty than the Canon footage, but that's just because Sony has much more dynamic range than Canon footage, so a little bit of color correction is needed. In fact, so right now, I'm going to open one of my projects from before. Alright, so here we are in Adobe Premiere CC 2017 with another project we added recently for the Ateneo de Manila University. So this is from Sony A6500. Yes, we're only using AVC HD here. I'm sorry. So it's from an A65, 6D, 60, 60, 65, 65, 65, 65. If you notice that the 65, the Sony footage has more. It looks less contrasty because there's just much more detail in the shadows. So first off, what I do is I crush the shadows. So I crush the shadows, bring up the highlights a little bit just to add some of that contrast back. Also, I have a LUT already applied because for me, it's just easier for me to color grade it with a LUT already applied, just so I already have an idea how the final image looks when I look at it. I also want to add a little bit of warmth to it, just so it makes the picture look more lively. So I'm gonna add some orange to the mid-tone, just a little bit, and now it looks more lively. It looks more like it shot at golden hour. So I already have the LUT applied, which is I use IWLT BAP LUTs for this project. I really like it because you pay like 25 bucks and you get like 100 plus LUTs. So this is with the LUT already applied. Notice how much more vibrant she looks now. It looks more golden hour-ish. Alright, next clip. So this is Canon footage. If you notice that the Canon footage has this different way of rendering the picture a little bit. Even when I grade it, there's less information in the shadows compared to this one. I'm gonna add a little bit of warmth as well to this one. Even though if you shoot this, a lot of times Canon is more warm than usual, but the white balance we were using wasn't exactly in tune to the lighting. I know it's gonna be a little bit of a controversial decision, but we use auto white balance for our events because for me, as someone who edits the footage, I find auto white balance to be a lot of times almost there. So now this footage looks a little bit better. So this one is a little bit overexposed. If you notice that Canon, when it overexposes, it doesn't have as much leeway room as Sony footage. overexposing on Canon is very, very dangerous, as it clips much more. As it clips faster than Sony. Sony, I've had times where it was maybe one stop overexposed, and I was still able to recover it to a usable degree. So yeah, so this Canon footage is a little bit overexposed. Let's crush the shadows, mid-tones, add a little warmth by adding some orange. Alright. For me, I like to use both wheels and curves, but I feel like I'm more precise with my grade with wheels. So here I have curves. This is more Canon. It's a little bit underexposed. So here, crush a little bit. Let's crush it a little bit. So now I'm going to use curves. I'm going to crush this a little bit. Go to blue. Add a little bit of warmth. I don't know, like I prefer the color wheels a little bit better for this. I can't get it exactly to where I want it to be as much with the curves. So yeah, screw it. I'm going to use wheels. So now I'm going to get that warmth a little bit. There we go. So this one, I'm just gonna crush it a little bit more just so you don't see the information there. I also use this sometimes. Alright, so now I'm gonna use the basic correction for this clip. Basically, I'm gonna just drop the exposure a little bit, add a little bit of contrast, crush the blacks a little bit. So here, if you notice that Sony really has just much more information in the shadows. And now I'm gonna crush the shadows and bring up the highlights, bring up my mid-tones a little bit just to give it that warmth that I want. So this clip was on Sony. Crush shadows, bring up the highlights, mid-tones. See how much better it looks by adding a little bit of that orange to the mid-tones. Before, after. And then this clip as well. Crush the shadows, highlights. When you edit footage like yourself, you'll just notice how much more information you can pull out of Sony footage compared to Canon. The codecs is better. XAVCS is a much better codec than the H.264 that Canon uses. So mid-tones, little bit of that orange just to get that warm look again. Alright. This one as well. This is from a Canon. Let me bring up some curves. Again, I like to use curves and color wheels. So yeah, let's play that sequence again with our freshly corrected footage. So for most people, honestly, this looks really, really good for me for mixing both. Where you really see the difference is Sony footage is much sharper than Canon's. Even messing with all the sharpening and all of that, you can see that the Canon footage looks less detailed. It looks more waxy. Here you can see a little bit more definition in the skin. Alright. So there's some drone footage. Still gotta correct the drone footage. Alright, so I'm gonna play this video. I'll just tell you. So this is from a Sony. So this part's mostly Sony. Here, if you notice, this is what I was telling you by being careful with overexposure. So this clip is a little bit overexposed over here. You can see that his face looks a little weird because of the lack of dynamic range. You can't really do anything. Even if I pull down the highlights, it's just clipped. So be careful. Do not overexpose Canon footage. Sony is a little bit more forgiving. Alright, so this is our next example. This is a wedding that we did around 2017. Our creative shooter was using an A6500, and we had two 6Ds. you can see how much more detail there is in the Sony picture. So this is ungrade. This is with the LUT but without grading. So this is with the LUT but without any correction. So this time I'm gonna use the basic correction. Again, there are many tools that you can do with Lumetri. There are many options you can do with Lumetri. You can use curves, wheels, basic correction. So this one's a little bit underexposed. And it's very, very yellow because the lighting in the venue is very, very yellow. So let me pull up the exposure. Bring down a little bit of the highlights. And then I'm gonna use my wheels. I like how this sometimes crushes the blacks rather than basic correction. So let me pull this up here. There's a little bit of a part here that's overexposed, but it's like a light. The lighting in this event wasn't that very good to begin with. So let me get my white balance selector. Click here. It's a little bit too much. Adjust it to where it's a little warm. So this clip, let me take out the original grade. This is from Canon. Exposure. As you can see, the image is already breaking apart faster than the Sony. So this part as well. As you can already see here that the image breaks a little bit faster than the Sony's. Shadows. Here in this clip here, you can see the lack of resolution compared to the Sony from here versus this one. It's not as sharp. So let me get my white balance selector. The white balance selector tool for me is just a way to make my life easier. So then here, let's just increase exposure a little bit. It's a little bit underexposed. Color wheels. So yeah, looks much better. Doesn't look yellowy. So here, same thing here. Look for somewhere white. Increase exposure. Color wheels just a little bit. So this part here, again, or I could just copy, paste. Alright, so let me play that whole sequence again. You can just see how much more detailed the the Sony footage really is. So there you go. Alright, so that's my tutorial on how to mix Canon footage with Sony footage. Like and subscribe, I guess. Tell me if you like this. I kind of want to do more tutorials like this. I may not be Sinong or whatever fancy name you want to put out there, but I'm just sharing with what I know to the rest of the world. Hope you guys enjoyed.